Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. We're here today to do a one-off. Yes, I wasn't sure what time I was going to release it. I guess it depended on when I came back from my shopping expedition. And it looks like it'll probably come out about 6:30. And it's a one-off called Recent History Album Review. I do have other ones in this set. I've had this show actually almost since the beginning of the channel. I do a one-off once in a while when I get an album that fits into this category. The album we're going to do today is Black Sabbath 13. This album fits into the category because it's a 2-1 or masterpiece. In this case, I would say it's a low 1. And it fits into this category because it's newer than 15 years old. So that's anything over 15 I usually do on my look back at a classic rock album. This one is not quite a classic yet, in my opinion. It's still fairly new, or recently new, so it's about a decade old, so I guess that's not too new, but it's new enough to fall into this category. So with this category, it usually goes from 15 years to 1 year. So anything below the 1 year is a new album and goes on my What's New show that I do every Saturday, which will come out after this. But today I decided to do this album. It was on my playlist for a while, as some of you will recall if you've followed my playlist, that it was in there. I think this is a really good album. For a band for these guys hadn't played together, doing an album at least for more than, when this came out, it was probably like 3 decades or something. Maybe even longer. It might have been 35 years since they did an album together. This is a pretty good return to form, I think. I didn't really know what to expect when I listened to this album. Sometimes you wish these bands that you love don't come back, and other times you wish they would. In this case, I wasn't sure whether I wanted them to come back and make idiots of themselves or not. I didn't think they would, because Black Sabbath has a real history of bouncing back from what seems like knockout blows. They've done it several times, and they're back here again with this one. So this is their last release to date. They have not released anything since this album in 2013, at least not a studio album. They have had a couple of other albums of greatest, I think at a greatest hit volume that came out this year of some notoriety, and then there was another one that came out in 2016, I think is maybe a live version of some of this material. I'm not 100% sure. I never checked out the albums completely, so that is something I will look into. But anyways, Black Sabbath 13, that's the album we're doing for today. So this album, we'll get into it now. Basically what I do on this is I just do pretty much the same thing I will do on Look Back at a Classic Rock Album. However, it's not that far back. So this was released on June the 10th, 2013. On the studios it was recorded at were Shangri-La in Malibu, California, and Tone Hall in Lulworth, England. Maybe it's probably Lulworth, England. Yep, that sounds probably right. Length is about 53 minutes, then 53 and a half minutes. A little bit lengthy. Out of my range, usually 45 is about usually the maximum I can do, but it's not too far out of the range. And it comes in a 2-album collection. So you have, the other one's still in the player. I was playing them. So you have 2 albums that look like this. So this one's the main album with the bulk of the songs, and then the other album has 3 songs on it. Somewhat like the Yes albums that we've done recently too, that have been put out recently too, where they have, in this case, this one has 8 on the first album and then 3 songs on the second album, so 11. They could have put them all on the same album. I'm not sure why they do things this way. Anyways, maybe to make it look like you're getting more, I'm not sure. Anyways, I do like the cover. I think it's pretty good. Pretty reminiscent of Sabbath. Nothing unusual here. This album, of course, was on the Vertigo label and produced by Rick Rubin. Additional musicianship on the album included Brad Wilkes on the drums, and then of course you had Ozzy on vocals and harmonica. Ozzy Osbourne, of course. Do I need to say that, really? Tony Iommi on guitars, both acoustic and electric. He does do acoustic. He has a couple of songs where there's acoustic on them. And then, of course, Geezer Butler on bass. So 3 of the original 4 members back here. I think Bill Ward didn't join them because of some contractual issues. I don't know if he had them with the label to do this album with this label or his own contract with his own label. I'm not sure what the case was there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the album first. I'm going to do some reviews of some of the songs. There's 2 or 3 songs towards the end of the first album that are basically the same as a lot of the other songs, and I'll talk about them a little bit too. So you've got basically this album it's actually a kind of return to form. It has a lot of that first debut Sabbath album sound to it, but with better production, better sound, better clarity. So a lot of those things have been improved from the first album, but the music is not too dissimilar from that first album. So, and it starts out with End of the Beginning, very reminiscent of their first song, Black Sabbath, self-titled Black Sabbath song. A lot of that very similar sound going on here. Heavy melodic sound. Ozzy's vocals are surprisingly good for his age, but I suspect, again, it's production. They're fixing everything to make his voice sound better, but it does sound very clearly like Ozzy. There's no argument there that it sounds like him. It's a very similar sound to that song is a very similar sound to that opening track, which I think is a good track. It was one of my favorite off of that album. Next song out is called God is Dead, returning to their kind of religious kind of discussion about what's going on and what they believe. A lot of people think, in the early days, they used to say Black Sabbath, anti-religion, devil worship, all that stuff. But I don't find that. I think they just have, they like to talk about religion and their own viewpoints on it. And for the most part, I think their viewpoints are fairly religious themselves. So I don't find anything. I'm a Catholic, and I don't take any offense to anything that they say here or sing here. Say God is Dead, another heavy melodic song, kind of a little bit of a dark matter here, but not bad. So I like that song. I didn't give any of the songs on the album less than a 6. I think it's a pretty solid album. The next song out, Loner. This is one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's heavy, beefy guitars here, strong lead parts. The vocals sound pretty much a little bit better than it did on the previous tracks, but still very much in that Ozzy range. Next song is called Zygist. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is a similar feel to the song Planet Caravan on the Paranoid album. It's got that kind of psychedelic feel to it, a very melodic, kind of psychedelic, wavy feeling that you get off of that song. There's a little bit of that here. Very moody, very murky song. And there's some good guitar picking on this song. I think it's one of the better songs for that on the album. Age of Reason, heavy opening with the drums dominating, really catchy riff. I think this is a pretty melodic song. I did like it. The next 3 songs, Live Forever, Damaged Soul, Dear Father, all good songs, solid, all within that same kind of feeling. Melodic, heavy, beefy guitars, great vocals, clear sounding, all good songs. Nothing terribly memorable about any of them. They don't really stick out for me, so I just kind of going to do a quick one through them. The second album, which could have ended up as just being part of the first album, but they put it on the second album. There's 3 tracks on this. Methodemic, the opening track of the 3. This is a heavy, fast-paced track. It's not like a lot of the other songs on the album. They beefed it up a little bit of like a Neon Nights kind of beef up, right? Going on, Wishing Well, The Mob Rules, that type of beefing up type of sound, faster paced, catchy riff. Ozzy's voice is pretty standard here. This might be my favorite track on the album. I do like it. That's part of the reason like the back three songs on this album are actually among their better songs, which is unusual. Usually you have your best off on the front album, but clearly this is a different setup here. Peace of Mind is the next song. Heavy, melodic, very similar to a lot of the tracks on the album. I did like it a little bit better than some of the front songs, but still a great tune. And then it ends off with a song that I think is maybe in my top 2 or 3 on this album, Pariah. This is a great tune. Catchy, heavy riff. I think this is another one of those songs with some great lyrics. This whole album is proliferated with great lyrics. The standard Black Sabbath talking about their talking points are well orchestrated and talked about here. Pariah, catchy, really good. Probably next to Methodemic, I think it's probably my favorite track on the album. Yeah, so great album. Pleasant surprise. If we were doing an episode of albums that didn't live up to what I hoped for, this would not qualify. This actually exceeded my expectations by quite a bit. I'm quite happy. So much so that I'm a little disappointed that they don't have any more. You know, like I could use a couple more of these and be very happy. I doubt they're going to do anything at this stage of the game again. This is probably a good ending for this group. They finished off well with a strong album. Is it as good as some of those original albums? Probably not, but only time will tell because it has to stand the test of time to be rated the same as them. And so I've only had it now for a year or so. So it's got a ways to go before it gets to that point where I think that it can be compared to them really in a sophisticated method. I like the album a lot. And it plays well at a loud volume too. And it's very doom metal-ish, which is my preference for metal. I like the speed metal a bit. I like the Iron Maiden kind of sound, but I do like that doom metal sound, and Black Sabbath does it as good or better than just about anybody. So there you have it. That's the episode of Recent History Album Review. I hope that you've enjoyed this this video on Black Sabbath here, one of my favorite bands, one of my group of 9. Been up in my top favorite bands for more than 45 years now. And I still love them. They're still a great band. I don't think I'll ever not love them. It seems impossible to me that that will happen. Anyways, I hope you've liked this. Please hit the like, subscribe, and hit the the notification bell. I was going to say something else. Hit the notification bell. That's much appreciated. Having you all aboard. Hope to see you again. And don't forget to hit and make any comments about the album in the comment section below. That's much appreciated. I enjoy hearing from people and what they think. Sometimes they correct me on my wrong thinking. Sometimes they're not sure about something, and I have to give them a little bit more information. It's all good news. It's all good stuff. Whenever we're talking about this kind of stuff, it's always great. Anyways, I hope to see you all throughout the week. This will be released. I think I'll probably put on a 15-minute timer so that those that hit the notification bell have a chance to hear it. I hope to see you all throughout the week, and take care and have a good evening. Goodbye.